You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. And with me, I have this amazing woman, Amanda Zwanziger. She is an author, speaker, life coach at Amanda Motivates. She's the author of a book called The Paralyzed Movement and is focused on helping others chase their dreams and change their lives. As the owner of Right Hand LLC, and what she's calling a ministrypreneur, Amanda spends her days helping people discover how to live the life that they were called to live. And we're going to talk today a little bit about what's holding you back from living that life, right, Amanda? Welcome.
We are. Thank you, Gail. I'm excited to be here with you and have a conversation about being stuck.
Being stuck. I know. So being stuck, we talked about a few things. And one of the comments that you made, I really, really like is you actually are working with folks to help them kind of step a little bit outside the box. And I have this amazing, I'm going to talk to you about my analogy about stretching that bubble that we live in, right? So imagine if you have a small world that you live in, to take a little step out of that small world from a mathematical perspective, it's a big step to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you take it and then you step back and then you try again and you step back. And that is fine, folks, because it's an elastic. You're stretching the elastic. Just keep trying. And then one day you realize that you've stretched your bubble. So now your bubble is a little bit bigger. Right. And if you take the same distance of a step, it's smaller percentage wise. So it becomes easier.
Absolutely.
Right.
I love that analogy. It reminds me a little bit of kind of the way that I've envisioned things too, in that, you know, when people are stuck, a lot of times it's because of the noise, so to speak, that's around them. And when I am talking about noise, meaning the things that paralyze them, the busyness of life, the things that really consume our hearts and our minds all day long. And it's hard to take that giant leap to chase the big dream when you have all of this stuff like bogging you down.
Right.
And so taking those baby steps like towards whatever that dream might be is more feasible, because you know, the big giant leap, you're just going to kind of be swimming endlessly trying to get there, especially because, you know, I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs that we have. Some of those limiting beliefs are because they are actually things that limit us, that are real. And then we have limiting beliefs that aren't real. And until we kind of reprogram our minds to be able to get past those limiting beliefs and remove the things that are keeping us stuck, we can't even take the baby steps yet.
Can't even take the baby steps. And what's interesting is that even the limiting beliefs that are real can be managed.
Yes.
Right? You don't need to have them hold you back. And I'll give you an example. And we see this all the time. But when I was a child, I went to camp, and it was an overnight camp. So I was there for 2 months. And we had a swim team. And the boys' swim team, our camp, kicked butt. We won race after race after race. And our star swimmer has one leg.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
I love the stories that include a physical win.
Right. I mean, he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. He was fantastic on the trampoline. I mean, I learned from him about the trampoline, because it's all about center and balance, right? And knowing where your core is. So that was a very early demonstration for me. I was very fortunate to be at the camp at the time that he was there.
Yeah.
to see the possibilities when someone doesn't let stuff hold them back.
It's actually what you just said is the whole theme to my ministry in general. You know, the Paralyzed Movement was formed because of what I witnessed as my husband, who was fully paralyzed on the right side of his body after a severe four-wheeler accident, spinal cord injury, bone fragments throughout his spinal cord, vertebrae completely gone. And when I didn't just learn from him in this journey, but I learned from everybody that we met through rehab, is that when everything is taken away from you, and you know, you have that physical battle ahead of you, there is no other perspective to have other than possibilities. It is, I am moving towards this, and I will move towards this, and I'll do whatever hard work and pain and, you know, grit that I need to go through to get there. I'm going to do it because there's no other alternative.
Right.
But when it comes to kind of the things that we know we need to achieve in our daily lives, our psychological limiting beliefs do not think in the same mindset. You know, for some reason, we don't have that same mindset of unlimited possibilities when we are battling something mentally or spiritually or emotionally in our lives.
Or financially.
Financially. Right? Yep.
Right?
We just are like, yeah, this is impossible to overcome. And we get settled.
Well,
and what I think
it's really the pain. It's the pain. You
yes.
mentioned, I am going to go through whatever pain it takes for me to go through to get there.
100%.
Right? And people are so afraid, they're pain averse. You know, we talk about being risk averse. They're not risk averse. People are pain averse, yep. Right? Even though they understand intellectually that if I get past this pain, it'll be glorious on the other side.
Yeah.
They're not willing to go through the pain.
Yeah.
To get to the glory.
It's interesting because I do, when I do my workshops, I'll actually throw this little quiz out to everybody. And I ask them first, if you were faced with a physical battle, or you have been, how hard and how long would you work on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the hardest ever? And overwhelmingly, everybody's like, hardest ever. But then when you later on, you present the same question to them about the things that have them psychologically stuck and paralyzed, and you ask them how hard they've worked and how long, they're like, don't want to answer that. And I just find it interesting how much we are willing to do to preserve our physical well-being, only to live mentally unhealthy lives.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so when I work with my clients, it's like, what are the blocks that are holding you back right now?
Yep.
And they could be, I focus more spiritually. And so we talk about the chakras is where things will show up. Yep. And if I have a client who can't speak, right, you know, they don't speak, so they don't believe they have a voice. Mm-hmm. Right. If I have a client who hides or avoids situations, they don't have strong self-esteem. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what is it? How are they showing up? We can then take a look at what is the problem, and then we can start to explore ways to release that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to release that.
I've had a lot of these limiting beliefs in my life that had me paralyzed for a long, long time. I thought that I, needed to climb the corporate ladder and be super successful to be able to provide this like financial stability in my family's life. And so I was doing it, but found myself with a job that had me traveling all the time. I wasn't home to see my kids' football games. I was gone every Mother's Day for like 7 years in a row. I missed birthdays, and all because I felt like this was the only option. And
Right.
it wasn't until I was able to understand that there were greater possibilities and that somehow I could, and where it eventually led me was to start my own business, working 20 hours a week and freeing my time up to work on ministry 20 hours a week, making the same amount of money. I mean, that was a difficult journey to take those steps, and it did not happen overnight. But once I understood that I could remove that limiting belief, that there was another way to have financial stability and not fear financial ruin, it changed the course of my entire life. And I've never looked back.
Right. And I love how you said you released it and it's not that easy, folks. It's like she didn't wake up one day and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. There's a journey, and everything is a journey, and it's not a straight line. It's, you have your bumps and bruises, but it's the fear of the struggle that you need to go through.
Yep.
That a lot of people don't want to face. My brother one time said to me, people don't go to the doctor for an issue until the pain they have is greater than the pain they think they're going to go through when they see the doctor. Right. And so
true.
Oh my God. Yes. And so for me, becoming an entrepreneur and falling into coaching, I didn't pursue coaching. I pursued consulting, and coaching came to me because that's my gift.
Yep.
I was very successful in corporate until I wasn't, and I got my ass fired. Right. And then it was the best gift ever. Thank you so much, because I'd still be in that miserable job, hating every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I went through the same thing. So I took a leap from the job that had me traveling, but I went back into corporate, but it was just local.
Right.
And when I started working with a coach, when I started having this like stirring inside me that I needed to open a sports store. I don't know why. I had 5 teenagers in sports, so maybe I thought I was the answer to the needed nut cups that were not happen, that we didn't have availability in our town. So I decided to hire a coach to kind of navigate through that. And as I was working with the coach, he was like, whoa, let's step back. Let's do some visioning. And it was through that visioning that I realized I didn't want to do that. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And it was absolutely eye-opening.
Right.
But still, I had this limiting belief that I couldn't make a living doing it. And it wasn't until my company that I worked for was leaving the state and shutting its doors, and I was jobless for the first time.
Right.
That I realized, wow, this is my chance. I literally was clicking my heels out the door. Because I was like, finally, I have no excuses. I'm gonna chase this. And it just took that shove.
Right. And for some of us, we don't get the shove.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do get the messages. One of my favorite things is, so God kind of taps you on the shoulder and maybe whisper, you need to do this. And you like, it's annoying. You shake it away. Mm-hmm. And then you might get a little stronger message. Hey, Gail, have you thought of doing this? Mm-hmm. Like, that's stupid. Go away. And you continue. And then you get the slap in the face. Gail, you need to do this. I didn't stop at that. I didn't even stop at the brick on the head. I stopped when the brick wall tumbled on me.
Yeah.
Right? Because literally, I mean, here I am. I'm living in San Diego. I have, not an expensive condominium that I'm paying for, a lifestyle that I was pretty much having a great time at. And what was I going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew what I did not want to do. I did not want to go back in corporate.
Yep.
I knew I did not want to give up my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. So, you make a list of what you don't want to do, and that leaves you with a list of what you do want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I became a consultant, and through that, I got certified as a business process consultant. And it was that coaching certification that that training lacked the people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, listen, I'm going to go and get me this thing. I didn't even know what I was going for, called life coaching certification, because we're missing people, and
Yeah.
people's first. People is very important to grow business. And when I started that, I'm like, holy crap, this is what I'm here for.
That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
Our journeys are so similar.
I know.
When I started my consulting business, I, had a vision for it, but where it ended up going, and you know what, it was a blessing the way that it played out, but it ended up essentially almost turning into a full-time job. So what ended up happening was, my ministry, which I thought would go like this, didn't really grow as intended. And, you talk about the nudges from God. I mean, that's been everything that's been driving things for me. And it would have been the middle of last year that my nudges were significant. I kept having this vision of jumping across a cliff towards where I was supposed to be in my life. And that, I knew with God supporting me that I'd make it to the other side, but I kept having this vision of me, and this is really weird sounding, but of this big, heavy fanny pack I was wearing. And all of a sudden I would fall down the cliff.
Right.
And that's when I was like, okay, I get it. This job that I ended up taking on was the big old fanny pack that
Take
was,
the
I was
fanny
never
pack off.
intended to be wearing. And
You need that fanny pack,
I
right?
know. And I needed the fanny pack because it was good money again. So I took the fanny pack off in November. I'm on this blind journey of leap and don't know, where I'm landing, other than I know it's going to happen, because that's how everything's played out so far. It's a big step of blind faith, but I'm with you in the journey that you've been on, and it's just lots of parallels.
Oh, it's crazy. So so one of the things that I learned, and I work with my clients towards the same thing, is that learning, first of all, what are your personal core values? Let's get there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what is your God-given gift? Let's get there. And then given that information, now you know how to make choices that are your choices, not someone else's telling you what to do. And it's not even me telling you what to do. This is your roadmap for you to make decisions for you in your life, right? It's not my roadmap. My roadmap is for me. It's not going to help you, right? And when you have that, then when you make a decision or you're given options, you can feel your way through it. I just finished with the client. He's amazing. He's just flying like crazy, but he's like, I don't want this coaching, big dream shit. I'm like, okay. He says, don't give me goals and all that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to, because I'm not a business coach. So that's cool. Right. Kind of, sort of. But what I did say to him was, I want to know how you're going to feel at the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How are you going to feel about the work that you're doing? And how do you want to feel every day about it?
Yeah.
And I want you to make choices based on how you want to feel at the end of the week. That guy is flying. I can't believe he's spinning my head. He's doing so well. Right. And he's like, no one's ever told me that. No one's ever told me that.
One of the civil, I take them on kind of that visioning journey too. But one of the things that I found, when we're really talking about being stuck, that has been a helpful part of that journey too, is, as we're going in and we're identifying their strengths and their skills and their passions, and really not doing it just from a standpoint of, hey, write these things down. It's digging in deep to find out what's really lurking inside, not just who you're being on the outside, who is it you want to be on the inside. And then once they identify this list, I have them go and rank, okay, all the things you're doing in your life, how much are these being incorporated? And it's pretty interesting for them to be able to see that there's not an alignment in many cases on
Right.
what's consuming their time every day with what is truly in the core of their heart on what they should be doing every day. And that's usually
Absolutely.
the awakening that they're like, I need to
make
perhaps
different choices, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's
I need
all
to let
about
go of
choices.
some things. And yeah.
Yeah. I had a client, in fact, her and I connected while I'm taking a little trip out here in San Diego just recently. And she has 3 businesses going, right?
Mhm.
She's a photographer as her main business at the moment. And she's getting tired. You know, that's physically exhausting. You're going to weddings and the positionings. And so she wants the other 2 businesses to pick up. And the third, she says, I see that as 80% of my income. I said, are you putting 80% of your time into that? And she's like, well, no, I'm maybe 5% of my time. I said, so how are you going to get to 80% if you're not giving it at least 80% of your focus? So, so now she gets it, and that business is growing, and she's in her middle of business is actually has actually grown, and that's interesting. That is photography art, and the artwork is very unusual. So it's a certain type of clientele. And she's been commissioned to do some stuff, which is awesome.
That is really awesome.
Right. Really, really awesome. So, but it's like, where do you want to go? And then take a look, like you said, well, this is great. Where are you at? Right.
Yeah.
And are you supporting where it is that you want to go? So what's holding you back? You know, fears and beliefs and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, we can go on with the stuff that you hear all the time from coaches, but it really is getting into, do you believe you deserve it? Right?
Yep.
And if you don't, then why not?
Yep.
Right.
I think it's that. I also think it's who you're living for.
Right.
You know, when I was when I was doing the traveling around the world job and was gone all the time, what led me to make the decision to change was there was a song on the radio and it said, "Are you who you said you would be?" with a sinking feeling in your chest. And when I heard that, it was like, that's me. I am who I said I would be, but I do have that sinking feeling in my chest because it wasn't who I wanted to be living for. And, you know, I take people through kind of this exercise where, think of it like as a target. We tend to live in this outer ring where we live for other people's wants. We live for our wants, and then it goes in, and then it's other people's needs, and then it's our needs. And in the very middle is what I consider is where our purpose is. And we tend to live in this outside place because, well, there's the human spirit aspect of that drives us towards the things we want, that makes us want to make other people happy,
right?
That makes us want to provide, that it makes that's where we consume our time and our focus, not necessarily zeroing in on our own hearts and our own minds and discovering, okay, what's really in there on who I should be. And once we're able to kind of like dissect that, then it's awesome, because then you can start to peel the onion on what needs to be removed.
Right.
And get closer to something manageable to pursue it.
Right. Right. And the fear of the pain is where someone like you and I can help.
Absolutely.
Right. It's, you know, don't be embarrassed or ashamed. That's another shame about the fear. Like, I don't even want to let anyone know I have a dream, because I'm not pursuing the dream, and I'm not pursuing the dream because it's going to hurt. I'm going to have to give up that and, you know, change that. And if I give up that, right. And so I don't want you to know that I don't have the balls to face my pain.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So all of those play out in your head.
Yeah.
Right. And some of those conversations you're not even aware are going on.
Yeah.
Right.
A good analogy to this, looping back to my husband and what he went through, I always tell people I would never want him to go through the pain he went through again, but I'm not sure I don't want to go through that journey again, because what I learned along the way of being through that huge trial, it's probably going to be the biggest trial. I pray it's the biggest trial that we have. It was hard, but in the midst of it, because we had that right mindset, it was joyful. We were laughing and dancing and singing and and being goofy in the midst of the most fearful time of our lives.
Right.
And we were able to do that because of the hope and the faith that we had in a better future.
Right.
And I think when the analogy being, it's painful, but man, when you look back at the times in your life that you went through something painful and you came out the other side because of your strength, because of your endurance, because of, the hope and the faith that you had in that, it's like something you talk about, you share with people, because you're like, look what I went through and made it through. And
right. If I can do it, you can do it. And I will help you. Right?
And if we could only accept that before the pain and we could have that joy at that moment,
right?
Imagine what we could get done.
Well, and so find the joy in the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Because there is. And the hope and the hope.
Right. Yep. Right. And that's where the joy comes from, is the hope. And the saying, this too shall pass. I hated that saying. Whenever I was going through, I would, from my family, this too shall pass. Like, what I want to say to you. I know this too shall pass, but at the moment, right, I'm in the middle of this, right? But you don't want it to just pass. You want to learn from it and grow from it and take it as a prize, as a medal that you've earned, right?
Yep.
Right.
Sometimes we want it to go faster.
Well, yes. And
yes,
when I get the taps on the shoulders now, I'm like, I'm listening. I don't need the bricks. I got it. I hear you. Right. Yeah. Right. And they become louder when you start listening to your own instincts and you start believing in yourself and you start embracing the light and the dark, the good and the bad, without the fear, right? The world opens up in such a beautiful way. It is just so different.
I agree.
Yeah. So tell me, Amanda, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So you can find me at my website, amandamotivates.com. There you can find information on my speaking coaching, a little bit on my business as well. And the book, there is a link to my book, The Paralyzed Movement, that is out there as well. That covers a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, and a whole lot more.
And a whole lot more. Plus it's on Amazon. I went and checked. And so thank you, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. If this resonated with you, let us know, like it, share it. Put a comment if something came up, because maybe we'll get back together and address whatever came up for you. If you know someone who could use this information, by all means, let them know that we're here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amanda. You take care.
Thank you for having me, Gail. I appreciate it.
Great. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailkraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.